Listen here, Captain. It's some humies what plans to become spiky boys. Let's kill him before they get hard.
Command Vox again, wanting a report. That's the 4th time this week. We keep giving them dead air, and it won't be long before they decide to stop by. They gotta be wondering who's accepting their munition drops, after all. They can Vox every minute until doomsday if they please. We will not respond. You have heard the whispers. You'll know Ulk, the will, the voice. We are his now. He is here. Well, they have forsaken us. If anybody wants these munitions, wants this meat, they must take it from us. Closer, for all care.
Perimeter breach. Intruders at checkpoint Tertius.
All forces to arms! Gun them down! Bring their flesh to the keep! All care shall feast this eve!
Well, hey everybody. Another mission of Retribution here. I am still Negaroth. I'm going to be by myself for this particular mission. I figured I'd give all of my wonderful guest commentators a little break from all the wonderful excitement that is Retribution. This is actually another optional mission that is taking place on the ice planet. I made a mistake in the previous mission of calling it Calderis. It is not Calderis. I'm sorry for the mistake. But, you know, this mission isn't the most exciting, and there's not a lot of change. It's mostly just another good place to get some extra war gear and, you know, kill a few more of the Yumis to, you know, shits and giggles, more or less. But, you know, while we have this bit of a lull, I figured I would dip a bit into the fluff of the Orks themselves, maybe give you a little bit of a side story to maybe, you know, spice up what some of you may not know in regards to the rather interesting backstories of the Orks. So, today we're going to be learning about a guy named Tuska, the Demon Killer. Now, late in 892-344, Millennium 41, which is the relative, you know, time scale of the year 40,000, there is a planet called Prosan, neighbor of the fortress world Cadia, that was invaded by a great host of orcs commanded by great boss Tuska. As the orc fleet entered the Cadian system, the Imperial Navy moved to intercept it. They slowed the green-skinned juggernaut, but ultimately could not stop it. The orc fleet plowed through the Cadian blockade, losing a full third of its numbers in the process. When the Orc Armada descended upon the world of Prosan, the Imperial High Command feared that the Cadian Gate was going to witness a full-scale war. Prosan was a hostile environment, training ground, a world with no strategic value, and a great many dangers. Its already volatile climate had been enhanced specifically so that the Cadians could train in the most inhospitable battlefield conditions. Acid rain fell in great squalls, lava burst in sudden gouts from sharp volcanic rocks, and tornadoes raged across the violent skies. What the Orcs wanted with the battered and worthless planet of Prosan was a mystery. For 13 days, the commanders of Cadia looked on in puzzlement as the Orcs poured wave after wave of troops into Prosan. Those Imperial regiments that were planned aside the time fought hard, their training giving them a natural advantage over the aliens. Great boss Tuska seemed hell-bent on conquering their planet, however, and his elite infantry seemed to relish the challenge. If anything, the hostile conditions only seemed to make the Greenskins fight all the harder. Within a month, the Imperial armies were forced to evacuate, leaving Prosan in the hands of the Orcs. The Imperial Navy re-established their cordon and prepared to fight to the last. They were not called upon to do so. The Orcs left Prosan as suddenly as they arrived. To the astonishment of the entire Cadian system, the Orc fleet made straight for the swirling, bleeding vortex that lay beyond the Cadian Gate, and disappeared into the Eye of Terror. 2 years before the invasion of Prosan, Great Boss Tuska's flagship, Gorejaw, had been invaded by a demonic entity as it carved its path through the warp. Tuska liked nothing more than pitting his strength against something larger than he was and coming out on top, and was famous for his many battlefield trophies. When Tuska learned that a towering many-headed nightmare was slaughtering its way through his crew, he strapped on his power claw and sprinted towards the sounds of battle, bellowing his war cry. Great Boss Tuska was most impressed by the violence that greeted him when he found it in the blood-slicked monstrosity that was butchering its way through his knobs. Still, Tuska was an Ork war boss and would not back down, especially not on his home turf. He met the beast head-to-head upon the Gorejaw's bridge. The resulting clash between Ork and Daemon was titanic. But when the fighting was over, Tuska had a new set of horns with which to adorn his trophy rack. In fighting the warp beast, Tuska had come closer to death than ever before. He enjoyed it tremendously. Tuska swore a great oath to find more warp creatures to fight, to lead his boys into the ultimate war against foes more powerful than any other. So it was that Tuska was born. Upon transition to the material universe, the Great Boss rounded up as many weird boys as he could, and ordered his fleet straight for Cadia. After a brief warm-up upon Prosan to get his boys ready to really hostile conditions, he intended to steer the Ork fleet into the heart of chaos beyond the Cadian Gate. There, Tuska believed they would fight a war fiercer and more exciting than any other. In many ways, he was right. Tuska's fleet made the normally violent transition to warp space with suspicious ease. His pet weird boys warned that it was far easier to sail into the Eye of Terror than to escape from its grasp. But this did not deter Tuska for one moment. His fleet cut through the shimmering nebulas of thought and roiling seas of emotion as the Orks searched for something to destroy. They came upon worlds of flickering crystals, forbidden paradises, jungles of gibbering corpses and great orbs of pure force that crackled and spat as the orbs made planetfall. Each world is more peculiar than the last, and they witnessed sights that would have driven a human insane many times over. Yet Tuska cared little. His Orks destroyed everything in their path. On a world carpeted with sore-pocked gargoyles that gasped and writhed underfoot, dripping tongues rose up to stab at the Ork invaders with their barbed tips. Tuska and his lads took their choppas to anything so much as twitched. On a world sculpted from the living silk, long-limbed temptresses sought to beguile the Ork warriors marching upon their fluted palaces. The she-daemons were met with an unrelenting wall of bullets and blades. On a world cut like a gem from solid thought, the Orks smashed their way through scintillating labyrinths with iron-sawed boots and horned helmets. Impossible architecture was thrown down, half-real relics were crushed underfoot, and chanting worshippers were massacred. Though he was losing more and more Orks with each twisted world he visited, Tuska was having the time of his life.
Nice work.
The true test of Tuska's might was yet to come. Making planetfall upon a world the color of fresh blood, the Orks splashed through a thick gruel of gore in search of an enemy. None came forth. What was left of Tuska's warband waded through the lights of battle that they could see on the horizon, but came no closer. Perhaps Tuska's war would have ended there had he not fired his shoot in the ground of frustration. The planet's crust, textured like fresh meat below the blood slicks, flinched at Tuska's outburst. It was all the sign the Orks needed. At Tuska's command, they began slicing and chopping and firing at the surface of the blood world itself. The crimson-black skies above began to resound with an angry roar. The planet was soon to show its displeasure in a far deadlier way. Forming out of the blood slicks were jagged beasts of sinew and rage, clothed only in flitting wisps of murderous intent. The Daemon things charged in the ranks of the Orks, and as the greenskins lost more and more of their numbers, they realized they had finally met their match. Great Boss Tuska was undaunted, and lay about himself with power claw and chopper. Without warning, the ground below Tusker's feet split open, and something huge and terrible pulled itself out from the beating heart of the planet. Though Tuska did not know it, he had attracted the attention of the Blood Prince, lord of the world on which the Orks had trespassed. It smiled at the greenskin before it, revealing a mouth full of fangs that would have made a bad moon jealous. Maw open and possibly wide, the demon charged. The warlord and the blood thing dueled for hours, but it soon became plain that the demon was only toying with Tuska. The boys had been decimated, and Tuska was bleeding from dozens of deep wounds. Eventually, Tuska was impaled through the gut by his adversary and pinned to the ground by its cloven hoof. In triumph, the Blood Prince screamed its praise to Khorne, but while it was distracted, the warband's remaining weird boys unleashed a storm of psychic energy upon the daemon. It ruled in rage at their impudence, crushing their minds with a gesture. With his final act, Tuska reached up between the creature's legs with his power claw and made a gesture of his own. But Tuska's story was not to end there. With every new dawn upon the Blood World, Tuska and his Orks find themselves whole again. They fight their way across the gory swamps in an eternal cycle of battle and death, puppets of the Lord of Battle until the end of time. In many ways, Tuska had come home. And they have a little quote here. It says, "Tell you I knew where the best fighting was." So yeah, it's a good little fluff story showing that more than anything, the Orks are always home in the midst of battle. They feed on it. It feeds them. It's like some kind